forget to like this video if you like it. Click subscribe, click notifications for future contents, and don't forget to share it with a friend.
Shalom, shalom. Greetings, greetings, blessings, everyone. Blessings, blessings. Oh man, I'm about to say Shabbat shalom. Welcome to Masculinity Monday. I'm fixing my screen. I don't have my screen set up.
Expressed.
All right. Okay. Had it playing in the background, and I'm not intending on doing that right now. Blessings to you. Blessings to you. What's going on, fellas? What's happening? Shalom, shalom. Greetings. Welcome to Masculinity Monday. I'm your host, Mike Allen here. Digging in the word. This is Masculinity Monday. This is our man cave where we discuss topics that are near and dear to us as men. Deal with the issues, current events, scriptural, theological topics, right? Topics that are about patriarchy, biblical polygyny, and the like. It's a safe space for us to be able to talk and to discuss, even though from time to time, really of late, we've been having particularly Sister Deborah. She's been on a platform with us, but she's not going to be with us here tonight. But definitely is strictly fellas. She's going to be in the chat room along with some of the other sisters, I'm assuming, this evening. But we have a good topic tonight, and I want to bring my brothers on so that we can. All right, there we go. Sorry about that. Sorry about the technical difficulties, the bumbling in the background. And as I said, I'm going to bring my brothers on. Here they go. Shalom, shalom, blessings, brothers. Greetings, greetings, greetings.
Shalom.
Greetings, shalom, blessings, everyone.
Going? How's it going, man? How's it going? How's it going? A new week, and second day. How's everything? How was Shabbat for you guys? How was the weekend? How was the family? How was work? What's going on? Talk to me.
Good.
Good. It's glad to hear that, man. Good. Said that just like a brother. It's good. It's good. I like that. Noah, what's going on?
Had a great rest on Shabbat. Got to sleep in. Then I took a nap later in the day. Got some physical food. Got some spiritual food.
Okay.
Yeah, it was good.
You acted accordingly.
Just a set apart day of rest. It did that.
Yeah, I did a lot of that myself. And I heard you did some streaming, also some live streaming Shabbat, right after Shabbat that evening.
Yeah, I think one in the day, and then one that.
Oh, okay.
One that evening too. I can't remember. Oh, The Rock. I did a stream about The Rock early in the day, and then later that evening, just talking about a wicked, crooked generation. Different things like that.
Nice. That's what's up, man. Cranking out that content, man. That's what I love. That's what I love to hear. Akeem Manilo, what's new, man? You with us tonight? What's new, baby? What's going on? Talk to us.
Nothing too much. Just
just taking things day by day and just crazy busy.
Crazy
Just
busy,
super
right?
super busy.
Yeah, yeah, I can relate. You're preaching to the choir right now, right? I can definitely relate to that, man. Being busy all the time, man. That's my middle name, right? Busy all the time, right? Yeah, well, I'm excited about tonight. Would you be so kind to open us up with a word of prayer, brother Aki?
Yes. Abba Yah, we come to you humbly in the name of your son, Yahusha. We just thank you and praise your name. We thank you for this moment to be on a live stream tonight. And I just pray that we have a blessed live and that we learn from each other and that others that join the stream, get to learn something new and just that we just build off each other and sharpen each other. We just thank you and praise your name, Abba Yah, in the name of your son, Yahusha, Jesus. Amen.
Amen. Amen.
Amen. Thank you for that, brother.
Thank you, brother. Thank you for that prayer. Thank you for that prayer. Much needed. Much needed. All right, we got a comment. All right, come. Oh, here we go to sisters. Shalom, Sister D, Sister Deborah. She says shalom, brother.
Shalom.
Right,
Shalom.
shalom. Good to see your avatar. Mrs. Lackney, shalom. Blessings to you, sis. Good to see you. Good to see you. Good to see you. Good to see you. And I mean, yes. All righty. So here we are. Here we are. So we have a topic for tonight, which is pretty much a spin-off of the spin-off from last week. So last week was a spin-off of the what's that? Three no, that's actually 2 Masculinity Mondays ago. We did it on gaslighting. Last week was pretty much how gaslighting is used by narcissists. And so tonight we're keeping it within that same realm. And tonight we're going to be talking about a related topic, right? And that's going to be on, is it misogynistic to call out misandry? Is it misogynistic to call out misandry? And I think this is a definitely important topic for us to discuss. I mean, these are terms that are 2 terms that are often thrown out, right? Uh, and so we're gonna dig into that. We have a series of questions tonight to go through this, and we can, think about it, grapple with it, discuss some scriptures, you know, um, and really sharpen one another tonight as we get into this conversation. But again, I want to welcome everyone to Masculinity Monday with Mike Allen and friends. I'm Mike Allen. These are my brothers here on the panel, and definitely, of course, all of you who are in the chat, and those of you who will be watching this in the playback. Welcome to Masculinity Monday. This week, that is a new week. The Most High has made for us, and let's do this. So we're going to start off with the first question. But before we even delve into the first question, I think it's important that we talk about. Let me just pull my screen up.
Maybe you're going there, but are you going to define it real quick?
Sure, definitely. But I just wanted to really talk about the main discussion prompt, and that is every time a man stands up, and this is what calls for this topic tonight. Every time a man stands up, walks in his Yah-given authority, or corrects disrespect, he's hit with labels like misogynist, toxic, or abusive. And the question is why? Before we even delve into defining the terms, why is he labeled a misogynist or misogynistic, toxic, or abusive? Whenever he stands up, he rises up in his masculinity. He seeks to be patriarchal. He seeks to take a lead, and he's correcting, right, disrespect, right, or setting the order or setting the tone. Why is it that he's hit with these labels? Misogynist, toxic, or abusive? What do you guys say?
Well, I would say it's because modern culture is saturated in matriarchy. That, it's like women are put on a pedestal today.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Okay. And so because they're on a pedestal, how does that connect or relate to him being called a misogynist, toxic, or abusive? Why? Why, why is it? Why does that?
Because to tell the truth about things, it's like taking her off that pedestal. Sometimes some people may think that it's kicking the pedestal out from under the
Right,
woman.
right. So it's sort of like deposing or removing her from her high level that she's been placed on, as you said, right? Her pedestal, um her grandstand stage, right? That she's on. She's her elevation, right? She's now being humbled, and so now that's a problem, right? Would you agree with that, brother Noah? I don't know. He probably stepped away from the mic. We got brother Tony. Shalom, brother Tony Smith. Blessings to you, brother. Good to see your avatar. And Mrs. Lackney says society will do anything to bring down patriarchy. Why is that, Mrs. Lackney? Why do you think that society would do anything to bring down patriarchy, even to the extent of labeling a man stepping in his patriarchal authority, correcting disrespect, standing up, right, taking the lead? Why is it being labeled as misogynism? Why is it being labeled as toxic? Why is it being labeled as abuse, Mrs. Lackney? Why does the society, why is it bent on wanting to bring down patriarchy, as you said? Brother Tony says, my wife says some women want to be in control and they don't want the man to stand in his right authority. Wow. Why is that? Why is it that some women they don't want the man to stand in his right authority? Do you think that the women do not want men to stand in their right authority would want a man to protect them? Do you think that they would want a man to come to their honor and to protect their dignity? Right? Mrs. Lackney says, my opinion, if the woman is in control, there is chaos. With patriarchy, there is shalom. That'll preach, right? That'll definitely preach. Yeah, brother Tony says because some women want to be the head of the house. Yeah, definitely. Right about that. They want to be the head of the house. Why do they want to be the head of the house, brother Manilow?
Because they want to usurp the authority of a man. They and even for them to want that authority. I'm not sure if they want the man's protection. A lot of women say they do, but when a man wants to protect a woman, he calls her controlling.
Right.
She calls him controlling.
Right. So if a man, let's present a scenario. Mrs. Lackney said the Hasatan is the master of chaos. Yeah, that's a very good reason as to why, right? But just let's take a scenario, for instance, 2 a.m. in the morning, right? A woman has a man there who has these feelings that we're talking about here. She doesn't want to be protected. Um, if she hears thumping at night, is she's going to be the first one you think that is going to be willing to go check it out when she had a man sitting there? Would she be
She
willing to would she be wanting to call the police? Right? If there's a fire, would she call the fire department? Right?
yeah
If she needs to be carried out of a burning building, would she want a 4'11" woman that weighs 119 pounds soaking wet to carry her to safety? Is that what she want? And she herself may be weighing 165, 170 pounds. Is that what she want?
No.
Sister Call for Wisdom says, woman stated the Cold War against men. Oh, women started the Cold War against men. Yeah, and it's very cold. It's cold outside. Yeah. Brother Tony says they really don't respect men. I agree with that. I think it's hard out here for a man. It's hard out here for a brother. Right? What do you guys say? Would you say that it's hard out here for a brother? Right?
Yeah.
Yeah, it is.
It is, right? It is. It is. And it shouldn't be. It shouldn't be. It's not the way I don't believe that the Father intended for this to be. But here's the next question. What's the modern definition of misogyny? And who defines it? What do you guys say is the modern definition of misogyny? And who defines it?
The feminists define it.
The feminist defines it. And what would be their modern definition of, say, misogyny?
Toxic masculinity.
Toxic masculinity. Toxic masculinity. Wow. So here's a fair question, brother Aki. Is it possible that misogyny can come from an energy that's not necessarily masculine? Is it possible for another woman to be misogynistic towards another woman?
I think it's possible.
It's possible, right? But we got to get to the bottom of what this word actually means. Anybody in the comment section? What does misogyny mean? What's the modern definition? Well, I think we pretty much, it's been stated on the panel. What's the modern definition, right? That toxic masculinity, brother Aki says. Is there anything more you guys want to add to what would be considered misogyny today? And we already know that it's the feminists that are pretty much defining it. But what is that definition? All right, what is that definition? Please, I'd love to hear your answer in the comment section. What is the definition of the modern perspective on what misogyny actually is? I'm going to share a screen. Okay. And let's pull her up. All right, so it's not sharing. Let me stop and present again. Here we go. Here's a Google search, right? Misogyny is the dislike of, is the contempt for, or ingrained prejudice against women. A sentence example is, she felt she was struggling against thinly disguised misogyny. Okay, let's see what this comment is over here. All right. And brother Tony says that misogyny is prejudice against women. Right. That's exactly what you probably pulled up the same site or same source. Right. Let's look at another source. Oh, here we go. Wikipedia. Misogyny is hatred of, contempt for, prejudice against women or girls. It is a form of sexism that can keep women at a lower social status than men. Would you guys define misogyny as being that? I mean, maybe that's just the definition, right? I mean, not that you necessarily agree with it, but maybe that's just the definition, right? Could it be? Sister D says anything that is critical of a woman is labeled misogyny. Bet your bottom dollar. So again, it goes back to the original statement, the opening statement, that pretty much that any man that stands up to being his masculine, to be patriarchal, right, to correct a woman, would be labeled as a misogynist, toxic, right, or abusive. So this is what it seems like what we got going on in the culture today, guys. This one here in Merriam-Webster says misogyny refers to specifically to a hatred of women. The word is formed from the Greek roots misane, right? I don't know whether if I'm pronouncing it right, but it is to hate, and gene, which means a woman, right? Right. So it's to hate a woman. So they formulate this concept from a Greek word. Okay. All right. Good. All right. I guess we can pull out of there and let's take it back and get to our next question. All right. So what is misandry then? And why is it rarely called out? So if misogyny is somehow at its core the hatred of men who hate, the hatred of women, it's male toxic abuse towards women, it's men wanting to subject women to a lower status, right? So if that's what misogyny is, then what is misandry, right? And think of the Greek terminology here that's encoded in the word. It's misandry, and why is it rarely called out, right? So you guys want to take a crack at what misandry is? What is misandry? And I'm not talking about that girl Sandra. I'm talking about misandry. No, not Miss Sandry. Mrs. Sandry, right? I'm talking about Miss Sandry, right? Who or what is misandry? Anybody in the comment section want to take a snub at it before we go forward? All right. Going once, going twice. I guess they're taking time Googling it, trying to get a Google definition. All right, Heckle one coming in.
About to say, I'm going to have to Google it.
Sounds like the antithesis, the opposite. It's the prejudice against men, misandry. All right, now, why do you say that, Brother Tony? Why would you say that misandry when it sounds like a woman, misandry, right? Why would you say that the word that sounds like a woman, like you're calling a woman, a specific woman named Sandry, that it would be prejudice against men? What does that word mean? And it's rarely used, is the question. Like, why is it rarely used? Why is it rarely used? Right. Okay. I can pull up the screen here, switch viewership. Misandry. It is, according to Oxford, it is the dislike of contempt for ingrained prejudice against men. Okay, i.e. the male sex, poorly disguised misandry. So here you see it's the complete opposite of misogyny. But let's go back to the question, guys. Let's go back to the question. The question is, or was, what is misandry and why is it rarely called out? So if misandry is if misogyny is the hatred and the dislike towards women, and misandry is the hatred and a dislike towards men, okay, well then why is misandry rarely called out in our society today? Why is it rarely called out?
The gender wars, it's kind of put on the back burner. The the feelings of man, or the importance of the male,
right?
And then the woman has been so hyped up to be like brother said, on a pedestal.
Does it almost sound as though that there's an agenda against misandry more so than misogyny more than it is towards misandry? Like there's a lack of concern or care about misandry, right? I mean, is there more men that exhibit hatred towards women than there are women that exhibit hatred towards men? What do you guys say about that? And I'm just thinking of that question right off the fly. In our modern society today, are we seeing more hatred in Western society towards women from men than we are seeing hatred towards men from women? What do you guys say? How about you in the chat? Are we seeing in our modern Western culture today more hatred towards men from women than women from men? What's more common? Is it the misogyny or is it the misandry? Which is more common in our Western culture today? And which one is most commonly called out?
Misogyny.
Misogyny is most common out,
Yeah.
right? And so which one is more common? Even though misogyny is mostly called out, is misogyny the one that is mostly happening? Is there more men being, how would you say, toxic towards women than there are women being toxic towards men in our modern Western culture today?
No, more women being toxic towards the men.
In
In a form of gaslighting too.
in a form of gaslighting, as we just recently covered that topic, right?
Yeah.
Right. So and on a sneak kind of a way, in a sly kind of a way, even though women are calling out and blaming men of misogyny, there is a greater occurrence of women being misandrous towards men, right? And Mrs. Lackney says there's more hatred towards men in our modern Western society today. Why is that? Why is that? Misandry is all over the media in the forms of commercials. Aha. Right. Give me some examples of how misandry is all over the media in the form of commercials, Brother Chauvin. Shalom to you, brethren. Blessings. Good to see you. Good to see your avatar. Give me some examples of how misandry is all over the media. Can you guys, any of you guys on the panel, that we see misandry all over the media, rather than misogyny all over the media, right? The Amazon commercials. Yeah, the Amazon commercials, right? Amazon commercials. How about sitcoms? Are sitcoms more favorable towards women than they are towards men? Is media marketing, like he mentions Amazon, is marketing, business marketing, advertisement, advertism more prone to be favorable towards women than they are to men, right? Mrs. Lackney says, almost like the pot calling the kettle black, trying to keep negative thoughts away from women and put on men. Yes, very interesting, right? Accusing men of being misogynist while at the same time the accusation is misandrous. The accusation in and of itself is a matter. And the reason why they're accusing men of this is because they don't want men to be men. They don't want men to be what they are, what is their created design to be. They don't want men to step up and be what the Most High has created them to be. I think the most hateful thing that anyone can do to another human being is to deprive them of being what the Most High wants them to be. Do you guys agree with that statement? The most hateful thing that anyone can do, whether male or female, male to male, female to female, right? The most hateful thing that a person can do to another human being is to deprive them of the very thing that the Most High intended for them to be. Do you agree? Put a number one. Put a number one in the chat. Put a number one in the chat. And so, Shalom, Pastor Rufus, servants of Yah. He says, I think the hatred comes from men and their lack of accountability and unwillingness to accept responsibility. I think you're onto something, brother. I really think you do. So men's lack of accepting responsibility, would you say, if I don't want to put words in your mouth there, bro, is it safe to say that you're saying that men's lack of accountability, men's lack of being willing to step up and be courageous, right? Lack of willing to be accountable, that it gives cause for an overreaction from women, a knee-jerk reaction of women, right, to now accuse men of being misogynist. So in other words, is there a sort of a justification? So okay, here's the question based on what you said. I think that's a very good point that you raised, brother. When a man does not step up in his masculine, is his lack of accountability in and of itself misogynistic? Catch the question? The guys on the panel? When a man doesn't step up and be patriarchal and be masculine and take the lead, right, and be accountable, right, be responsible, is that in and of itself an act of misandry? What do you guys say?
Misandry?
Okay, all right. He said the number one. He says not necessarily, not necessarily. Okay, so when a man is not being accountable, he's not necessarily being okay. Can we see that? Okay, so because a man is not being accountable, he's not necessarily, that doesn't necessarily mean that he hate women. But the question on the flip side is, if he does not step up to provide for women, is he still showing love towards women? Because what did Rav Shaul, what did Paul say in terms of the duty of the man to the woman, is that he is to love her, right? And he loved her by caring for her, providing for her, nurturing for her. So if a man um relinquishes or pulls back or draws back from that responsibility of being a provider, a nurturer, a protector, is he actually walking in love? And is love, and if he's not walking in love, could it be considered hatred? Right? Because if you don't love your brother, is that considered love, or is it considered hatred, or is it neutral? Right? He said, I just think men need to own the fact that they are the heads and they should lead their families, the woman and the children, provision, protection, production. Totally agree. Totally agree. Preach it to the choir. Definitely. Yeah, we need to step up. We need to step up. And I think the lack of stepping up gives a call or causes women to call us out as being misogynist in a lot of ways. In other words, it doesn't necessarily mean that it's true. It's just that men are just not stepping up, not assuming the roles. Because it's not love if they don't accept their positions in families and society. Exactly. That's saying, and that's the problem. We're not stepping up, providing, protecting, producing, right, and leading our families, but yet we want to say that we are actually loving, right? That's kind of contradictory, right? Kind of contradictory, I would say. All right, so what's the next question? All right, so here's the next one. Have you ever been labeled, you brothers, have you ever been labeled something you're not, or ladies, have you ever been labeled something you're not simply for walking in leadership? Now, this is to the brothers.
Yeah.
Ever been labeled something you're not simply for walking in leadership? Brother Noah said a yes. I'm gonna call you to be courageous. You mind giving us an example of, an instance where you've been called, you've been labeled something that you're not, simply because you were just walking in leadership? I mean, if anybody's ever been a supervisor, a father, a husband, right? an employer, a coach, right? You stepping in leadership means that you're going to have to make decisions. You're going to have to lead. You're going to have to correct, even when those that you lead may not necessarily want to do what it is that you're trying to correct them to do. Do you guys agree on that? Like that, a lot of times that can cause tension, right? Being a leader, especially when the people that you lead, you were once peers, right? Y'all started off on the same level together. Now you got a leadership position above them, and now you're accountable to them to being a servant leader towards them. And now you're trying to lead them, and you're trying to monitor them as a leader, correct them if need be, and you get pushback. They don't like it for some reason. Go ahead, brother.
Aki, would you mind muting your mic? There's a lot of static and like a high pitched noise going on.
Yeah. When you're not, there you go. Thanks. Yeah, when you're not, I heard it, but then I just kind of like ignored it. Yeah, whenever you're not speaking, just mute it. When you want to talk, just put the mic back on. Okay, brother Aki. Yeah. So yeah. Have you ever been labeled? So yeah. Could you give us that example, brother Noah, of a time that you've been labeled something you're not simply for walking in leadership?
Being labeled controlling.
Controlling. Any of you brothers ever been called controlling because you decided to take the lead? Right?
I've been called that.
You've been called that. What about manipulator? What about manipulator?
I haven't been called that, but I mean I've had pushback, just over the way that I choose to lead my family, even if it had nothing to do with that person.
The person on the outside.
Yeah.
That can happen because a lot of people may think that you are controlling in that regard, right? And you're being a little too excessive, right? You're being come on, Aki, you're too dramatic here, Manilow. Yeah, but
I'll even say to an extent, I'll say it to an extent I am controlling. I mean, I want to lead my household.
Here's a question: how do you lead without control?
Exactly.
I mean, if anything, I think that's a gaslighting statement out there to tell someone that's in leadership that they could imagine someone telling their boss on the job that pays them a check, you're controlling. Imagine someone telling the judge in the courtroom, oh, your honor, you're just controlling. You just want things your way. Imagine someone telling a police officer, right? Oh, you're just controlling, officer. Right? Like it doesn't even sound like it fits, right? Brother Rufus says love is a verb in action word. Indeed it is. And he says, yes, absolutely. I have been mislabeled. Yes. Yeah, we've all been. Yeah, I'm part of that camp, that fraternity. Prideful, arrogant, selfish, lack of understanding, insensitive, not caring, controlling, etc. And the list continues, right? And yes, manipulative. Yes, I've been called that as well, right? He said you can lead by example without controlling. Free will gives them the option to follow in certain situations. That's interesting. Tree of the Field says, I was also labeled corrupt when I came to Torah and expected my family to follow after. Yeah. I've gotten it extreme.
Corrupting you.
Right. Especially when the holiday thing came. Don't take my Christmas. You taking my Christmas? Oh no, I love to eat. Not my Thanksgiving. Birthdays too. Yeah, those were some interesting conversations. Brother Sheldon says women are 80% of the consumer base, adds pander to women portraying men as hapless. Yes, which subconsciously makes her bristle at the notion submitting the male authority to control the home's finances. Yes, it does. And Treater Philly says crazy. Brother, no. Yeah, for sure. Indeed. I like that. Let's shoot to the next one. All right. So here's the next one. Can a man be confident, assertive, and corrective without being abusive? Is it possible? Can you be confident, assertive, right? Don't back down. Be sure, be firm, right? Be corrective. Hey, you don't need to, I don't think you should be doing that. This is what I need you to do. I need you to do this over here. You're not doing that right. Look. Come in, let's step back, and I need you to do this over again. Is being corrective abusive? Is being assertive abusive? Is being confident necessarily abusive? That's this question. I think these questions are very important because it's really enabling us to peel back the attacks that are coming from today's title. Is it misogynistic to call out misandry, right? All right, we got a comment coming in. Tree to Field says, from a Christian churchgoer to like, hey, it's the same book you read. LOL. All right. So let's get to the next one. All right. Anybody want to answer? Take a crack at this one. Can a man be confident, assertive, and corrective without being abusive? Is it possible?
Yes.
In this lifetime, in this universe?
Yeah.
Actually, it's possible, right? Sister Call for Wisdom says, being corrected by a man is humbling to us women. Why? Now, why would that be? Why would it be humbling for a woman to be corrected by a man, right? A man. Why would it be humbling?
It shows authority and headship.
It shows authority and headship.
It establishes the roles. You know, the different hierarchies.
Right. Is it triggering? Does it trigger something?
Yes.
When a woman
Jealousy.
is jealousy, right?
Wanting the man's position.
Not liking the fact that, knowing in her Noah, on the table of her heart, that she's really supposed to subject herself, but there's something in her flesh that really doesn't want to do that, right?
Knowing that he shall rule over you.
Yes. This is a good part. This is a good point right here. Brother Rupert says, I think all correction should be humbling.
We should.
Yeah. I mean, at the end of the day, like when Yah corrects Israel, right? When he corrects his people, is it not humbling? I mean, just think in the manner of how he does it. Mrs. Lackney says women need correction for their man. Oh, from their man. Yeah, I agree. They need it. And I believe that, is it safe to say, Mrs. Lackney, that a lot of the problems that women have is as a result of not being corrected or subjecting themselves to being corrected by a man? That's my question. Are the problems that women face today, are the problems that they cause today, the result of not wanting to be corrected from a man? And it could be whatever man that has authority in their life, be it their father or their husband, or it can be their uncle or older brother. The fact that a woman does not want to be corrected, does that cause problems for her in this day and age? She says, absolutely. Yes. Yeah. I'd agree on that one. right? Okay, so here's the next question. Have you ever been labeled something you're not simply for walking? Okay, we did this one already. I don't know how I got that there twice. All right, so let's look at some more videos. Let's take you to the Warner Wolf. Let's take you to the videos. All right. Okay.
That are younger finds that women that are older.
All right, so I need to start this over.
He's a misogynist simply because he's expressed a preference for women that are younger, finds that women that are older bring a degree of baggage, uncertainty, complexity to a man's life that younger women simply don't. Now, is that misogyny? Seems like today, anyway, anything that might be used in such a way that would share a unfavorable light on female nature is now called misogyny. If you say something that's unfavorable to female nature, you're now labeled as a misogynist. Women have a long laundry list of preferences for men that they select for long-term basis. Have a good steady job, must be at least 6 feet tall, must be funny, must be interesting, must be captivating, must be influential, must be alpha, must also be soft and humble and kind and somewhat of a beta when I need him to be, must be funny, must be competent, must be able to kill spiders, must be able to blah, blah, blah. You've heard it all, right? Like it goes on and on, but nobody ever calls a woman a misandrist. He's a misogynist simply because he's expressed a preference.
All right, so what do you guys think on that one? That women have this long laundry list, right? Of preferences that they have in a man, or categories that they think a man must check off, right? And they will express this, they'll verbalize this, right? They'll articulate this, right? They will chide a man for not living up to this, right? They will reject the man because he doesn't live up to this list, right? This long laundry list, right? On the flip side, a man may have maybe like a handful of things, and because a woman does not like the fact that, you know, she might not meet the chart, right? He's labeled as a misogynist. You guys agree with that? Like, do you think that this guy's on point here? What do you think of what he says here? Anything stands out?
I agree. And the list makes it seem like they're looking for somebody, I would say, that they don't even deserve. Somebody that really doesn't exist. It's like when you're playing, it's like you're playing, you know, if you play one of those video games like a RPG or something like that, and you create your character, and you could put more points towards a certain skill, but once you do that, you lose other points for that skill. It's like you're gonna that character is gonna be better at one thing than the other thing. They want that man's skill, every skill of that man to be maxed out to 100.
Wow,
You can't even do that in a game. You can't even do that in a game. So how can you do that in real life?
But you're saying you can't get all of those options checked off of your preferences in a game, but how could you do that in real life?
Yeah.
Then you got a point. I think the brother got a point there. What you say, Brother Noah?
all while they can only be one thing: look good.
Just look good, right?
No qualities, no skill, no.
And sometimes not even that. Sometimes not even that, man. Like, yeah, like wow. Yeah, just obnoxious. Yeah, so Miss Lackley says that is not misogyny, that is preference. They have such high standards, but don't apply those standards for themselves. This is so true. It's so true. It's not misogyny because he has preferences. She can have preferences, but the minute he expresses what his preferences are, it's automatically misogyny, according to her. Yeah, yeah. Yeah, they as women. Yeah, for sure. Indeed. All right. So let's look at some. Well, no, wait. Let's look at another video. All right. Oh, this one right here. Brace yourself. This is a male feminist. And yeah, he's this in this video, this guy is pretty much, he's a feminist, and he's basically calls himself demonstrating how the Bible is misogynistic. Okay? All right. Brace yourself. You may have seen him before.
How is it not? Did you read it? One of the foundations.
I 100%.
How is the Bible misogynist? Wait, is that a serious question? How is it not? Did you read it? One of the foundations of the book is that a woman is the reason for all of the suffering of humanity. It's not like that was a one-off story and it's like whatever, nobody cares. No, they bring.
Okay, is it true that the Bible is misogynist because the woman is labeled as the one who was deceived and led the whole world into sin? Is that misogynist? Why would you say it's not misogynist? Why would say it's not misogynistic? Because the Bible labels Eve as being the reason why the world was led into sin.
I would say it's not it's not, even though somebody, it's easy to say it is, because just because, I mean, it's true, but that doesn't mean that the Bible is being prejudiced against women. It's just, I mean, that's what actually happened. So that doesn't mean that the
Right.
Bible is being prejudiced just because that's what happened.
That's what happened. Right. I think that's a very good point. The other thing to really take note of on that is that the Bible also labels a man as being the cause of the downfall of humanity in other passages, right? So it's not just the woman that's labeled as being the downfall. He's just highlighting the fact that it's the woman in a particular passage that he's thinking of, but he's not considering that there's other passages, like for instance, like this one right here. This is in Romans, the 5th chapter, and it speaks to Adam, right? And it's in the 12th verse, it reads, it says, therefore, just as through one man sin entered into the world, and death through sin, and so death spread to all men because all sinned. Okay, so how did we get to the place of all sin? One man started it. So even though it says in other places that she was deceived and led the world into sin, here, obviously, it's referencing the fact that there was one man who sinned who led the whole world into sin. Right. So it's not, the problem is the lack of knowledge, and atheists have a tendency of doing that. Like they will take a scripture, run with it, and now because it's not taken in context with the rest of scripture, right? Now the scriptures are bad, right? Now this is a hole in the text, when really it's just a lack of contextualization and understanding of the text altogether. What do you guys say?
That's true. They take that one verse or passage and magnify that and don't read anything else.
Anything else, right? And I think this is a very good point that Mrs. Lackney made, is that Adam should have corrected her. So he was wrong for not correcting her, right?
Yeah, it was his fault.
We're talking about leadership, correction. Hello, where was his leadership while she was eating? Because the scripture says he was with her while she was being tempted, right? She was with her while she was being tempted. She says, husband and I studied on that. It was interesting. It's interesting, but yeah, there's a balance to it. It's not, she's not getting all of the blame. There's other passages, and granted, this is not the only one that puts the blame on her, right? 1 Corinthians 15 puts the blame on Adam as well, right? So, yeah, brother just needs to go back and study a little bit more All right, let's go back to where we were at and finish the video. Go back onto the video. All right. I just wanted to bring
that up again, like for misogyny. Let a woman learn quietly and with all submissiveness. I do not permit a woman to teach nor hold authority over a man. Rather, she is to be quiet. For it was Adam who was created first, and then Eve. And Adam was not deceived. It was Eve who was deceived and became a transgressor. That is the Apostle Paul speaking on behalf of God, talking about who should be allowed to teach the gospel. We got women pastors, but according to the Bible, they shouldn't even be in the conversation. I'm gonna just.
All right, so he says we have women pastors, so that should invalidate this whole idea that the scriptures say that a woman is not to teach. What do you guys think on that? Right? The fact that there's women pastors out here, then that means that the Bible must be wrong in saying that a woman shouldn't teach. So his reasoning is based off of what is going on in the culture, obviously, not what the text says. All right.
Fire off misogynist verses from the Bible. I could do that shit all day. I could max out this video just doing that. By the time an angry mob showed up to try to grape a couple of angels, and Lot, who was referred to as a righteous man, said, hey, don't grape these angels, grape my virgin daughters instead. What about the time Lot's wife got turned into salt? Literal salt. For what? For looking back while running away. Thou shalt not covet thy neighbor's wife, nor his ass, nor anything that is thy neighbor's, because women are property, like donkeys. If a man seduces a virgin and she is not betrothed, he must pay the bride price and then take her as his wife. If the father won't give her to him, because she's property, he still has to pay him the bride price. Just whatever the going price for virgins is these days. Thou shalt not suffer a witch to live.
Before we go further, like, what is it that it appears? Let me just get these other statements that come in. Tree of the Field says Adam didn't fulfill his role. No, he didn't. He didn't step up, right? He for some reason he was absent. A duty, derelict of duty. Signing off, peace and blessings to you all. All right, shalom to you, brother.
Shalom.
Shalom. All right, thanks for popping through. Yeah. So, all right. Okay. So, why is it that? As Mrs. Lackney said, she said he never got a hug from his dad. Shake him. No, he didn't. Like, he's advocating for a woman to be in the front and a woman to lead, right? More than a woman would, in a certain sense. It's like he's more of a feminist than a lot of female feminists, that I know of, right? Or women who call themselves feminists. He's championing a woman's feminism or feministic ideology more than the average feminist woman today. So what is it that he's missing? And that's the thing that I want to get at, because this what goes in and it speaks to this thing of misogyny versus misandry. What is it that he's missing as to why the man must be the teacher, why the man must be the one in authority and he is an authority to correct the woman? Why is the woman the man's property? What is it that he's missing that is leading him to think that a woman shouldn't be a man's property? A woman shouldn't be corrected by a man. A woman shouldn't be led by a man. A woman, was deceived, as a text. What is it that he's missing that's causing him to think like this? Talk to me, guys. Talk to me. All right. JTOA, shalom, blessings to you. He said everything that God said, he doesn't realize the responsibility was still on the man. Exactly. That's the reason why Romans 5 makes that point. Even notice their eyes didn't open until when? When did the man and the woman's eyes opened after eating the fruit that they were not supposed to eat?
When Adam ate.
When Adam ate. Because Adam was the one. And who did Yah call? Did he call Eve?
No.
No. And who named Eve?
Adam.
Right. So what Paul says that there's an order to which Eve was created, and that was for a reason. And the whole reason why she was created in the first place. Why was she created? His missing God. Yes, he is definitely missing God's order. Strange terms. He's definitely missing it. Yes. So why was he created before the woman? Why was Adam created with a woman? That this misandrous dude is missing. Like, why was the one man created before the woman as it relates to this topic tonight? Because she was created, was it not, for his needs? When Yah first mentioned a woman, what was the context and why he even first mentioned this idea of making a woman? It was because the man was alone and that the man needed help, and he needed a helper that would be suitable for him. So the very first mention of this woman was so that she can assist the man, she can help him. That's the purpose. And so if you miss that, then you're going to miss every subsequent passage there after that talks about her being corrected by the man, her being subjected to the man's authority, she being the man's property. You're going to miss all of that. And so he's jumping around using a concordance or a search engine, and he's coming up with these passages, right? And he's isolating his understanding of these passages, not relating it to the larger context of scripture. And that's the reason why he's off here. He needs help. As somebody said earlier, he definitely needs help. All right. So let's finish it off.
A lot of women died from that one, like thousands. According to the Bible, women are unclean after childbirth and need to go through a purification ritual to cleanse themselves. If her baby is male, she is unclean for 7 days and has to go through a 33-day purification. However, if the baby is born female, she is unclean for 14 days and has to go through a 66-day purification ritual.
And the purification really is to help the woman. So he really doesn't even understand the science behind it. And not only does she have to go through a purification, whatever this man's semen touches, he has to, if it touches him, he has to go through a purification, right? And so what was the purpose of these purification laws written and coded into the Torah? It is for our benefit. That's the reason why it's there. No different than staying away from unclean foods. Like, there's a purpose to all of this. Right, but he's missing it. Strange Time says, I do believe this is where the gender war stems from. Feminist women envy the position of men like the devil envy the position of humanity. Exactly. And not only that, you have men champion feminism, right? You have women are becoming emboldened because men like this are making political decisions and giving the platform and creating platforms and cheerleading this stuff on, right? It's men like this that are doing that. What do you say, Aki?
I agree.
Mm-hmm.
I agree.
Mm-hmm.
They seem to have they seem to have a louder voice.
Mm-hmm. 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 But how do they even get that voice? Like, we talk about this. Like, how does a woman even get to put a suit on, get in a car, wake up in a house, in a bed, take a shower, get in a car? No, let me run it back. How does she wake up in a bed that a man more than likely manufactured? How does she put on clothes that were likely manufactured by machines that a man engineered? How does she not take a shower that has a faucet system, right? That the man designed the infrastructure of the plumbing and put the pipes inside there, did the heavy lifting. How does she not get into a vehicle, right, that was engineered by the man? Because by and large, most engineers, probably at 90-95%, are men, right? You know, and how did she get to a job to get behind the desk if men didn't create policies that allowed her to sit in a position of authority behind the desk in the office? So in other words, even the ability that women have to be able to sit at the table has been given to them by men. It's not something that they advance to on their own. What do you guys say on that? What do you guys say on that? Here's a passage. Genesis 3:16 says, your desire shall be for your husband, and he shall rule over you. What does this passage do in relationship or speak in relationship to what this guy is talking about here on the screen? I'm gonna take it off from him. There's no need to continue with him, right? We could do another content review on him, but you know, what does this particular passage has to do in speaking in relationship to this particular topic? Your desire shall be for your husband, and he shall. Why is Yah even making this a commandment that a woman's desire shall be for her husband? And why is it that he is subjecting her to be under the rulership of a man? Why do you think, guys? Talk to me, brother Manilo, Aki.
Does that mean that she shall desire him, or she will desire his position?
Right. And that's the thing. So the Hebrew word, right, is the Hebrew word for desire. There is the Hebrew word teshukate, right? There's only a few places, right? But the immediate is in this chapter and the chapter after that. And the time that it's used in the chapter after that, this word means an evil desire. It's a desire that that the sin had to overtake Cain. And when Yah says to Cain, you know, concerning why does his countenance look the way that it looks, right? You know, and because he was upset because his sacrifice, his offering was not accepted while his brother Abel's was. And so Yah saw that he had malice in his heart as he described his countenance to him. And he said, listen, sin is crouching, you know, like a lion or animal, praying animal. It's crouching and it desires to overtake you, right? So that word desire, teshukatek, is to overtake you. He said, but you must master it. And that's the same thing here. She has a desire for him, but he must master her. It's the same context that's given here in chapter 3, right? When this particular verse is used. Your desire shall be for your husband, and he shall rule over you. That's a commandment. That's not an opinion. That's not an invitation. That's not a request. That's a commandment, right? You must be in subjection to him, right? It's a symbolism of order. This word, please elaborate on that. I can't remember of why are you saying that it's a symbolism of order? Just elaborate for me a little bit further on sword of the Lord. Thank you for chiming in. Mrs. Lackney says women were made to be helpers to the man. Indeed, they were. And sword of the Lord says shalom. Shalom to you, brother. And House of Lamar, shalom, brother. Blessings. Good to see you here, Aki. Good to see you. Thank you for joining us again. Sword of the Lord said, Yah is the husband. Yes, he is. He is. And so him being the husband, who subjects to him? It should be his bride. And who is his bride, right? And it's the same parallel that we see Paul, the apostle, makes in Ephesians 5, that the wife is to be subject to the husband as the assembly is to be subjected to the Messiah, right? And strange times as wow. Yes. So y'all be the glory. All right, let's get to the next question. Here. All right, let's get to the next question. All right. So Ephesians 5:23 to 25, the headship of the husband. That's when I just got finished talking. So you could definitely go look that up Also, First Kings 2 verses 2-3. Be strong, therefore, and these are abbreviated. I didn't quote the whole scripture. Be strong, therefore, and prove yourself a man. So one thing about a man is that a man's masculinity is proven in his strength. And it is the reason as to why King Lemuel's mother in Proverbs 31 gave him instruction not to give his strength to a woman. Not to give his strength to a woman. Why? Because in giving his strength, the implication in the next verse down is that this is what destroys kings, right? It literally destroys kings by giving his strength to a woman. That's the capability of a man giving his strength to a woman, right? So much can be there are nations that do not exist today because men have given their strength to women. Kings who have went to war over a woman, right? We see this in the Battle of Troy, right? With Troy and the what's the other Greek? The Battle of Troy, and what's the other one? I forget their name. Somebody help me out. But you know, when they gave the Trojans, right? What happened? They it was over a woman, right? That's the story. That's the backstory. It was over a woman, right? So you literally have nations that do not exist today because of a woman, right? All right. So Proverbs 27, 5-6, open rebuke versus hidden love. And that's key. Like, this goes back to what we said earlier, right? That if a man corrects a woman, if he rebukes a woman, is it misogyny? Is it hatred? Right? Aki, what did we say? Is it hatred necessarily because a man corrects a woman? Right? Does it mean
No.
he doesn't love her? Right? So the implication here is that it is an act of love for him to correct it, because Yah corrects and chastens those whom he loves. Right? Does he not? Does he not? Got another comment. And it was the Spartans. Thank you, Mrs. Lackney. It was the Spartans and the Trojans, right? Right. And that was over the feud of a woman, right? A man not controlling his temptations, his lusts, right? So, all right, so here we go. Is biblical patriarchy then being mislabeled as misogyny? So, based on what we said so far, is biblical patriarchy then mislabeled as misogyny? What do you guys say? Do you think that people or women generally, or certainly this guy in this video that we just watched, right? Would he, because he's talking about biblical patriarchy, he's just not using the word, but is he mislabeling it as misogyny, as men having hatred towards women? I mean, the scriptures that he quoted, do they necessarily equate to men hating women? Right? Is that what's going on? Talk to me, folks. Talk to me. You got something you want to chime in, brother Aki?
I wanted to just say, like, the verse that says, "Do not give strength to a woman." That somebody might think that's misogyny, but I would say that's even good for a woman, because if you think about it, that's even that in some cases that's better for a woman. That's healthier for her, because like you have men that gave their strength to a woman, and some of those guys were abusive to her. Some of them murdered a woman because they give their strength to a woman.
I mean, we can sort of like speculate on the what's not spoken in the past. It's not saying that this is necessarily what happened or what took place, right? But when you think of Jericho, right? Joshua sends the spies in, right? And the spies are hidden by Rahab the harlot, right? And after she hides them and she sends them in the opposite direction, right? And the men of the city the leaders of the city, they come to her and they ask her, did she see these men, right? They took her word, right? They trusted her, right? They trusted her. But think about what their trust led for them. Not that they was going to have any chance, even if they didn't, take a word, but just think about the sequence of it here, right? They took her word, the spies got away, and then the opposing nation came in and smashed them, right? So in that instance, they gave their strength to her in a certain sense. They just listened to what, like, they could have sent men in opposite directions. So just because she saw the men go in a certain direction, that doesn't mean that they didn't take a double take and come back. They didn't double back, right? that could have happened. So, why take the chance of just listening to what she says? So obviously she said that she seen them go a particular way. So that means that they were spotted. She spotted them, right? Okay, spread out. Why just rely totally on what this woman says? Because how do we know that she's not helping them, right? and so they actually put their trust. Maybe these were some of the men that she serviced as a prostitute, right? Think about it like it. I know I'm thinking deeper into the text, right? But could that be possible? Right, that they've had a certain level of confidence in her, right? That and that happens so much. Like, men put so much, we as men oftentimes put so much confidence in a woman, and it leads to a downfall. And I just want to go to Proverbs 31, and I want to highlight this point. I mentioned it earlier, but I think it's worth us noting, right? And actually going to the passage and letting the passage speak for itself, right? Proverbs 31. Can you read that verse 1 to 3, Brother Aki? You need me to enlarge it? Can you see it? Up here.
Well, now I was muted. My bad.
Okay.
The words of King Lemuel, the oracle which his mother taught him. What, O my son, and what, O son of my womb, and what, O son of my vows? Do not give your strength to women or your ways to that which destroys kings.
All right. So again, what is she implying here are ways that destroys kings? In this one verse, verse 3.
To me, like, in some ways, I think, like the story you spoke about, like some kings trusted women, and it led to their downfall, led to the downfall of their
Exactly.
kingdom.
Of their kingdom, right? And
I
so
mean,
even in this verse, it's implied that giving one strength to a woman, right? Because this verse is parallel. There are two phrases here, two clauses, and the clauses are parallel, right? Giving one strength is parallel to their way that destroys kings. Giving one strength to women is parallel to them giving their ways to that which destroys kings. So when a man gives his strength to a woman, he's putting into her hands the ability, right, to cause destruction of him and his kingdom. But see, now let's take this a little bit further, right? Let's take this a little bit further. If the kingdom is destroyed, what happens to the women that are in the kingdom?
they fall too.
They fall too. So this goes back to the question earlier. Does it benefit women to have men who do not give them their strength, right? Particularly kings, and men who even go as far as to correct the women? Because if the man is the one that's in position that's keeping the kingdom safe, who is being saved? Who is being protected in the kingdom? would be the women. The women are being protected. That's just like the man of the house is protected. Like we talked about, and I mentioned, I think this was last week, when women dress provocatively and they want to go out with their man, right? They want to go out with their man scantily dressed, right? And everything hanging out. And there's a good chance that they're going to walk past other men. And sometimes men can be very disrespectful, right? So, what position is a woman putting her man in if she's walking down the street with him and someone disrespects her honor, right? Even though she's not carrying herself in an honorable way, right? But what position is she putting her man in if someone disrespects her in the street or makes a gesture or goes to touch her, right? And her man is there. What is she, number one, going to be looking for him to do? And what position is she actually putting him in by doing that, by carrying herself that way? Talk to me.
He'll have to protect her, but it's putting him in danger.
Yes, right. And he could, what could possibly happen to him in protecting her honor?
He can kill him or go to jail, or that guy could kill him.
Him or injure him, right? Or he'd be in a hospital, right? All
Yeah.
because she put him in a position of destroying his kingdom, right? All because she put him in a position of destroying him, right? And granted, it could go so bad that the man may have other men there. There may be several men there. So you got some guys that are so evil to the point and wicked, and they're thinking they'll jump the guy and they'll assault the woman in front of the man. So now she's getting assaulted, right, in front of her man, and he has to watch, right? Because this is how low men can get in this world, right? Why? Because she just had to wear that outfit. She just had to let it hang out. And this is the danger that women actually put men in. They actually provoke them by what they wear to have to put themselves at risk or in harm's way and actually risk getting destroyed. All right. We got some comments coming in. Let's get to these comments. Strange Time says Proverbs is full of it is. It's full of those gems. It corrects a man to act according. Exactly. Mrs. Lackney says, would Solomon's foreign wife leading his heart astray fall into that? Of course. Because he negated what the will of the Most High was. To not do what the Most High commands us to do is to give our strength. It wasn't that not the case with Adam? Yah says, because you listen to the voice of your woman, right? So the very reason why he was corrected was because he listened to the voice of his woman over the Most High. And that's exactly what Solomon did. You're correct. And Sister Call for Wisdom says, we women don't have the foresight to see the end result of all. No, not at all. Because, I mean, yeah, foresight in seeing that you're going to get some attention. Foresight to see that you're going to stir your man up to want to protect him, or you want to trigger him or get some sort of reaction from him. Yeah, you got foresight to see you're going to cause that, but not to really see. That's like kids playing with matches. They playing with matches and they're around the curtains and the furnishings and the sheets in the house, and they playing with the matches and not having the foresight to see that this can literally start a fire, right? Strange Time says, I think King Solomon serves both cautionary tale. When a man gives his strength to women, he ends up worshiping the women, indeed, and neglects to worship Most High. Yes, definitely. Right on, brother. He says women should have been worshiping him, the Most High, that is, for sure, and bowing to him in that sense. In other words, the word worship means to bow, right? You know, a woman should be deeming her man as being her Lord, right? She should be submitting herself to his rulership, right? We don't think about putting you at harm. No, you don't. You don't. It's far from the mind. The most important thing is to get the attention and the power that comes with it. And see, that's the reason why the power in the hands of that's like putting power in the hands of a child. You don't give a 9-year-old a set of keys to drive the car, right? You don't. You just don't do that, right? Because that's a power that they just more than likely are not going to be able to be mature enough to handle, and it's just not fitting for them to take on that power. And so it's the same thing when you start talking about women stepping into a power that the Most High had never intended. He says, he shall rule over you, not you rule over him. They got to twist it. Mrs. Lackney, clap. Praise Yah. All right, so let's go a little bit further. All right. So what's the difference between righteous headship and domination? Now, this is a good one here. Let's get this one right. What's the difference between righteous headship and sheer plain old domination, guys? Talk to me. What's the difference between the two? Is there a difference? Righteous headship and domination? Or is domination a bad thing? I'm going to pull up some definitions, but go ahead while you guys grapple with it. What is the difference? Yeah, go ahead, brother.
I don't think domination is necessarily a bad thing, but I think in these days, domination is equated with abuse.
It's equated with abuse, right? It's equated with being controlling, right?
Mm-hmm.
Right. But can you control without abuse?
Yes, you can. I believe so.
Mm-hmm. I think Brother Rufus said earlier about love, doing it through love, exercising love, right? Here's a let's pull her up. All right, so here, I believe this is Oxford. It's the domination is the exercise of control or influence over someone or something, or the state of being so controlled. Okay, we got some comments coming in. All right. Strange Time says, I think it's the same. Yeah, definitely. Either way, well, I wouldn't say either way, but it is the same. But certainly domination can be used or exercised in an abusive way, without a doubt, right? And then therefore it wouldn't be righteous, right? It's only righteous if it's the right way. But go ahead, Brother Aki.
And I see where it says, where it says a similar word rule, and I think about the scripture in Genesis, how it said the man will rule over the woman. So we're saying the Most High, he said that, the man would dominate his woman.
Yes, indeed. We definitely got to look at that in the Hebrew, right? What is the root core of that word, right? In its original form, right? Hebrew. Genesis 3. Let's look. Genesis 3:16. Okay. All right, let's pull her up. All right, there we go. Sister D asks a good question. She says, how can you lead what you can't control? I mean, think about a judge not being able to control the courtroom. Think about a correction officer who has a dorm of 300 huge muscle-bound inmate men that he has to lead, right? That he cannot control. Think about the teacher, the substitute teacher that comes in that day that the regular teacher happens to take off, right? Don't come in because they called out. And the substitute teacher has no control over the classroom. How can you lead what you cannot control? That's the question. How can you lead what you cannot control? Shalom, Ari Heights. Blessings to you, sister. Good to see you. She said, in righteous headship, the man submits to the leadership of the Most High. The laws, responsibilities, and rights he bestows the man with in giving him dominion. To mickle that word dominion. Sounds like domination to me, right? Oh, but maybe it's just dominion over the animals, but not the woman, right? Maybe it's just over the trees, but not the woman, right? Well, let's see what this word says here. Let's see what this word says. All right, so let's click on to 316. And come on. Here we go. 316. And this is the word rule, right? Here we go. Rule. That's it. Right, Arki? All right. So what is the word?
Strong's H4910. Mashal.
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 Mashal Montana. All right. So here we go to rule. Heavens, the Murgatroyds. Look at some of the transliteration here. It is to rule. It is to have dominion. It is to reign like a king. Interesting. To exercise dominion. What? You dominating? Right? It is to rule, to have dominion, governor, indeed reign, bear cause, to have power. So the person that is rulership has the power, right? So Yah says that he's supposed to dominate over her. He's supposed to have power over her. Now, if this is something that Yah has established, is it a good or a bad thing? He says animal cruelty. Good one. Yeah, I mean, is it a bad thing? I mean, after all, the Most High said that that's what this is supposed to be, right? Is it a bad thing for men to dominate his women? Is it?
No.
Is it?
No.
Yeah. Right. All right. So again, going back to Ephesians 5:23, looks like it's repeating itself. All right, we did that already. Okay, you know what it is? I'm repeated the labels. That's another reason why it took so long. Okay. Okay, so this is the next one. How did Yah design authority to work between man and woman? If we're going to grapple and we're going to understand this word misogyny versus misandry, or is it misogynistic to call out misandry? Is it misogynistic to correct the woman? Is it misogynistic to dominate a woman? Is it misogynistic to basically put a woman in her place, right? Is it misogyny necessarily? And if it is, like, how did Yah design the authority to work between a man and a woman in the first place? How did he design that to have to work? How does that play out? Anybody? How does it play out? What's a simple way of explaining how this thing plays out? How is it supposed to work? How's it supposed to work? What is it supposed to look like? Maybe that's another way of asking it. Like, what is it supposed to look like? This head-body relationship between a man and a woman. And by the way, Paul uses the analogy of the man being the head as the Messiah is the head, right? And the woman being the body as the assembly being the body. My question is, does the body ever lead the head? Is the head in control of the body? Or if ever there's a time that the head is not in control of the body, is that a good thing? Is that a good thing when the head is not in control of the body? Like, hey, how did you get here? My body made me do it. Blaming it on the body, right? Huh? How does this play out? Nope. How does it play out? How does it play out? How does it play out? All right. So we can think on that one. Let's go to some more videos. Let's look at some more videos. Let's switch this up and look at some more videos. Pull my screen up. All right. Let me finish it. That dude. Okay. All right.
Charlemagne the God.
Rap was based in so much misogyny. There's an abnormal amount of it.
No, we're there now again. No, it's way back now.
Yeah, there's a regression that's happening in response to
Our sexual liberation. I don't even know if it's sexual liberation. I don't think it's totally sexual. I just think in general we have.
I think financial liberation is actually more offensive to them than sexual liberation. Men don't mind us being hoes. They mind us being able to pay our bills without them.
And bars were drunk.
Yeah, I will say this to the day I die. Black women are so obscenely gracious. We show people the grace that we wish we got in return. We could sit here and attack patriarchy all day, but still show kindness to individual men. Right. I would love men to mimic that back. You could talk about toxic femininity and still show kindness to individual women. But when you're bullying very specific women who you know her mother died, you saw her crying on SNL, and you're punching down women, the fact that we're going through so much and we can still show them love, can we get some of that back? Please. Can we just get some of that back, Drake? Rap was based in so much misogyny. There's an abnormal amount of it.
No, we're there now again. No, it's way back now.
Yeah, there's a regression that's happening in response to
our sexual liberation. I don't even know if it's sexual liberation. I don't think it's totally sexual. I just think in general we have.
I think financial liberation is actually more offensive to them than sexual liberation. Men don't mind us being hoes. They mind us being able to pay our bills without them.
And bars were drunk.
Yeah, I will say this to the day I die. Black women.
All right, so men are not appreciating, men are not respecting women. Men are looking down on women because women have been liberated sexually, because women have been liberated financially. What do you guys think of this? Talk to me. Mrs. Lackney says, man is the head, woman the neck, to support, not to term. That is so true. And it terms based on the decision made where the decision making comes from to even make the neck cause the head to turn. All right. She said BS. Ari High says it is loving to put a woman into her righteous place, into submittance in humility and respect unto the man, order and peace. Amen. Strange Time says our relationship with women symbolizes the relationship we have with God. We submit to God and women submit to men, whether in a godly or way or not. Part of our salvation story. Facts. Anybody want to add to that? Anybody want to add to that? Yeah, go ahead, brother.
I don't necessarily agree that men are, more bothered by women's financial liberation, right, more so than sexual liberation. I think they want to think that. I never heard a man complain about that.
No, I don't like her because she's making money, right?
It sounds crazy to me.
Yeah, men don't really complain because the woman. Men complain, or men take issue when women make the money and they use the money as a power grab.
Yes.
Tool, right? They use it as a weapon, a strategy to now gain control or usurp authority over, to subject a man, right? Or to belittle a man. That's what men have a problem with. That's what I think. I know. Yeah. So, Ari Heights. Yes. Call for Wisdom says, how did these ladies see being a 304 a flex? I don't know. I mean, it's something to be proud of, right? Hoeing, right? Just think of the mindset, right? And this is the reason for why it was important for their fathers to put them into subjection and their husbands to put them in subjection. Them being liberated is so dangerous, even just in how they even sound. Just considering how they even sound. We're not even going to think about the choices that these women make, right? Ari Heights. Yeah, that is disrespectful. Indeed. Right. All right, so here's the next video. Let's watch the next. Oh, this is your boy again, the male feminist of the year.
Hello. All right, so yesterday I made a video of things to look out for that might indicate that the person you're talking to might not see women as people. Now, a lot of people liked that video, but a comment that kept popping up was that my list was too obvious. Very.
All right, notice what he says here. He's got this list of signs that basically show that the person that they're dealing with or talking with doesn't see women as people, right? So, okay, buckle up.
Clear as day indicators. So a lot of people were asking whether or not I could list some more subtle indicators. This video is going to have a bunch of indicators, and I'm going to try to make them like have like more obvious ones, and then have like the more subtle ones. Get their view on abortion, whether or not they value bodily autonomy and women's right to choose. If they use the term friend zone, refer to themselves as a nice guy, or use the term simp, red flag. Ask them to describe their ideal wife or girlfriend or whatever, and see if their description sounds like they're describing a slave. If they say the patriarchy doesn't exist, if they think the Me Too movement.
I think that this guy right here is misandrous, against men. I think he hates men. I think he has a problem with masculinity. What do you guys say? Do you think that this guy enjoys men, or enjoys being a man, or takes issue with masculinity? Let me know in the comments.
I know what I think. So to me, he seems to have been raised by a single mother who complained about men.
That complain about men. Your father ain't this and your father that, and is maybe his grandmother or what have you. But he has a real chip against men, right? It's a big one too. It's a big one at that. All right, so this is, I agree, very misandrous. Exactly. I identify issues. Identity issues. Indeed, self-hatred. Like self-hatred, right? So if he's a misandrist, he hates men, he hates himself, right? Go figure. Strange Time says we can't buy our salvation with money from God, but we gain favor when we trust and obey him. Hence, women can't buy a man's consent by making him be on her plan leadership. Yeah, it's true. It's true. She can't buy a man's consent. No, not a real man, right? Call for Wisdom says he is suffering from gender confusion. Yes, indeed. Mrs. Lackney says, coached from birth to dislike what he is. Isn't that sad? Like a slave under Jim Crow South, a slave under antebellum racist, right? Anything that you could think of to teach that slave from birth that he is less than. And so from birth, he views masculinity as being less than what a woman is. And not to say that one is necessarily greater than the other, right? Because I don't think that that's the point. But he comes off as he literally hates being a man. All right, so let's listen to it. We're gonna endure him a little bit more before we go further.
Ruined dating. They use the phrase gay to mean weak or uncool. Honestly, if they think the LGBTQ community just isn't valid, huge red flag. Homophobia, transphobia, etc. usually go hand.
All right, there we go. He's now defending what? he's defending the people with the alphabets, right? The rainbow people, right? And he's defending it, right? And if a man does not agree with it, then it's a red flag. There's something wrong with a man who has a problem with another man penetrating another man, right? So if a man has a problem with that, something is wrong with him. Wow. Okay.
Hand in hand with misogyny. They talk about gold diggers, ask you about your body count, or use the word misandry. They generalize women's behaviors like all women want this or no women want that. Pretty red flag. If they refer to women as females, no. They use the phrase traditional man or wanting a traditional household. That's more like a pink flag. I guess it's not always that indicator, but most of the time that means that they want an in-house maid that they can sleep with. So usually red flag, but not every time. Here's some more subtle indicators. Ask him to hold your purse. See how he responds. Ask him to buy you tampons or pads and see how he responds. If he doesn't want to do those things because he sees them as feminine and therefore beneath him, it's because he doesn't see women as people. If he says things that would indicate that your role is to be quiet and pretty, like if he complains that you laugh too loud, or if he complains when you're not cute for the day, stuff like that. If they don't let you lead stuff, or if they've got a problem with you making decisions or taking charge of things, that's an indicator. If they get defensive or angry when they hear women talk about bad experiences that they've had with men, or if they try to counter those experiences with like, what about these things that women do? Like if they
Like he totally speaks in the pronoun of they, right? Like he's not a part of the they, right? Like he's separate from the they. Like I don't even know whether if he even wrote, but I don't know. I mean, I don't know what this guy's preference is, but he obviously takes some issues with masculinity, right?
They have a lot of whataboutisms happening, then that's a big red flag. See how they respond when you say that something they did makes you uncomfortable. See how they respond when you tell them no. See how they respond when you set a boundary, whether or not they are able to respect that. Disagree with them on something and see how they respond if they ignore you or dismiss you. If they're constantly interrupting you when you're trying to talk or get your point across, that's another indicator. See how they respond or talk about women that they deem more masculine. They don't respect women who have muscles or dress a certain way. That's an indicator as well. Last but not least, if they don't have any women that are platonic friends in their life, or if they believe that women and men cannot be platonic friends, that's a big indicator. Most misogynists are not subtle, and the reason is because they don't believe that they're doing or thinking anything wrong. They believe that the way that they're thinking is right, and everyone else just can't handle it. But the more subtle misogynists can be harder to detect. It's like, how do I know if he's just pretending to be progressive, stuff like that? In those situations, you got to think about how he talks when you're not asking him a question, but just how he talks casually, or how he responds in certain situations or topics. Anyway, hope you found something helpful in here. Bye. All right, so yesterday I made a video of things.
All right. All right, so let's look at the comments and see. Actually, we still got the last two. Okay. Let's look at the comments and see what we got here and go back. All right. So Mrs. Lackney gave some reactions. All right. And Call for Wisdom says leadership isn't control. It's showing good principle in action, teaching them and expect to be followed. He's saying that leadership. Francois Robelin. Yeah, he said it's okay. Manilow stepped out. He came back in. All right. Yeah. So okay. All right. So he disagrees with Call for Wisdom. Manilow says he really has a mental illness, projecting like crazy. For sure. Right. He really has a mental. Okay. I get. How does he function in the real world? If he followed all those rules he stated, would he be able to or allowed to speak to women? Yeah. Well, I mean, that's the thing. It's he speaks as a feminist. And so if you're not affirming feminism, and if you're not affirming, as he says, LGBT ideology, right? A woman's right to choose, and and all of that. If you're not affirming on those things, then there's a problem, because that's what he kept saying. There's a problem, like so you can't have an opinion of being a masculine man, right? A patriarchal man. You can't be if you're patriarchal, then you got a problem, right? So he takes issue with patriarchy for sure. House of Lamar said he's a panderer, and that is so true, right?
Mm-hmm.
He is the epitome of it, right? Like this guy, if you go on his channel, and I'll put the link in the description box, you go on his channel, like this is really what he does. Like he's a champion for feminism, right? He's got all kind of content, right? And you can imagine, and definitely go look in the comment section as well. It's a lot of women, right? A lot of feminists, right? And he's just egging and cheering them on, and gassing him up. House of Lamar said he was one of those dudes that thinks that agreeing with everything for sure. Corporal says, those my feet have a right to choose where it wants to go. No, does my feet. Does my feet. Strange times. Men who are feminists are usually disliked by women. Yeah, well, they dislike them in a sense of being in a relationship with them, right? And they may want to be in a relationship, but they're not really drawn or attracted to them. I mean, the ladies, we got the ladies in the comment section. Like, is a guy like this appealing? Like, is a guy like this attractive? Right? Would this be the type of guy that you could see how would you say spending the rest of your life with? Strange times, H. Right. And I agree, he is only friend zoned. Yeah, this is so true, right? But he says that as well. Like when a guy mentions that he is in a friend zone, that basically he's a problem. That's the point that he's making, right? So when men talk in those terminology, right? I don't know if he said it in this video or the previous video. That's something to watch out for, right? Right? Because he has a problem with just being a friend, right? He, and he's not supposed to be. And Mrs. Lackney says H to the Nizzo, right? All right, good. Let's go back. So, how does modern culture interpret a man's leadership then? So, how do we interpret it? How does the modern culture interpret it? Like, or is men supposed to lead in at all? Right? A lot of Jezebels like men like that. Yeah, Ahab, right? Because they can boss him around. This is true. But do they really respect him? Right? That's the question, right? And would they feel protected by him if it really came down to it, right? The women around him will use him for their affirmations, right? That's so insightful, right? He's going to be used, right? They're going to suck up all the affirmations that they can from him, right? Because he's going to worship them. He's going to praise them, right? Right? At their feet. He's going to subject himself to those women, right? That's what he's going to do. He's going to subject himself, right? Let me take this banner off. Okay. Should we reshape our leadership to fit modern comfort or hold the line? What should we do? Should we continue to push for this patriarchal thing that's resounding in the biblical pages, right? That jumps right off at us. Should we push for that, right? Or should we hold the line, or should we reshape it according to what is pleasing and fitting to this guy, right? Right. All right. So modern culture sees male leadership as controlling and female leaders as strong. See, they have no problem with the woman leading, but it's only when we say that the man should lead, right? Then that's when it's a problem. And Mrs. Lackney said, hold the line. Yes, hold the line. Let's hold the line, guys. Let's hold the line. All right. So 1 Corinthians 11:3, the head of every man is Messiah. The head of a woman is a man. And Isaiah 5:20 says, woe to those who call evil good and good evil. Yes, everything that Yah made, he said it was good, right? But he's coming back afterwards, way after the fact, right? And speaking to it as being evil. Woe unto him. Sound doctrine and behavior fitting for men and women. Indeed it is, right? All right, so could Yah himself be labeled a misogynist by today's standards? Yeah, well, certainly this feminist guy over here, he basically called the Bible a book of misogyny, so then he's obviously calling the Most High a misogynist. So based on these standards, when people make these claims against scriptures or these attacks against scriptures as being misogynistic, are they not labeling the Most High as being misogynistic? based on today's standards, right? What do you guys think? How did Yah deal with rebellious women in scripture, right? And I think he pointed this thing out, right, to a certain degree. So when the women rebelled, like Yah judged them harshly, right? Even Israel as his woman, right? And Judah as his woman, he dealt with them harshly, right? He subjected them to being exiled and taken advantage of, right? He removed his hedge of protection. Would modern society accept Yah's judgment or call him abusive? What do you say? In one sense, he's not a loving God because he does nothing with evil in this world. How could he be a loving God? How could the God exist if he allows the evil to exist in this world, right? But then on the flip side, when he brings judgment, he brings down the wrath, then he's abusive. Sounds like a catch-22 to me. All right. If Yah defines love, discipline, and authority, then why do we let culture redefine it? I mean, if it's already defined by the one who actually made it, right, then what's the need for us to redefine it? Why do we have to? If it ain't broke, don't try to fix it, right? Ezekiel 16, Yah's rebuke of Jerusalem portrayed as an unfaithful woman. Revelations 2 and 20 to 23, Jezebel being rebuked and judged. Hebrews 12:6, for Yah disciplines the one he loves. I quoted that earlier. and that's a fact. Discipline, correction, rebuke are acts of love. They're acts of love. They're not something to be ashamed or to shirk from, right? Shrink back from, right? Call for wisdom says, I think when we fight male headship, we are saying Yah made a mistake in putting men in charge. Go figure. Go figure, right? Go figure. That's exactly what people are saying when they say that, right? That Yah made a mistake. Is masculinity under attack? If so, how do we respond? What is true masculinity according to scriptures? What does it look like, right? Are we ashamed to be men in today's culture, right? You know, we want. Are we in a closet with our masculinity, right? Because we're afraid of what master culture is going to do to us, right? Do to we, right? What does it mean to be both gentle and firm like Yeshua? What does that mean? Is that possible? You can be gentle and firm. Like Yeshua has the ability to bring these opposite expressions in the same essence as the same being, right? Like the lion and the lamb, or he's harmless, wise as a serpent, but harmless as a dove, right? He has the ability, and that is what he expects of us at the same time. 1 Corinthians 16:13. Let's go to those texts. I don't have them written out, so we're going to have to go do it this way. 1 Corinthians. Let me bring us to the screen. All right. So 1 Corinthians 16:13. All right, here we go. All right, so we need to go to the text itself. Oh, I did something wrong. All right, so that's 1 Corinthians. There we go. All right, there we go. And this is what it says from 13 to 14. It says, be on alert, stand firm in the faith, act like men, be strong. So here's the question. Is the text say that acting like men means to be weak? What does it say here, Aki, about manhood? What is acting like men being consistent with? Being on alert, being on guard, right? Being a protector, right? standing firm. So when a man stand up, that was the original question that we asked when, or intro of how men stand up or step up in their masculinity, or right to be patriarchal, they're deemed as being toxic, right? Stand firm in the faith, right? So if he's a faithful man, he's going to stand, and he's going to stand firm, right? And he's gonna act in a strong way, right? All these are consistent with masculinities that the Most High has made. Let all that you be done in love. So let all that you do be done in. So all of these are to be done in love. A man being on alert, a man standing firm in his faith, a man being strong. That means that it's possible to do all of the above under the motivation of love, under the virtue of love. All right. So the next one is Second Timothy 3. And this is what it reads: 3:1-5. Aki, could you read 3:1-5? Help me out.
But realize this, that in the last days difficult times will come. For men will be lovers of self, lovers of money, boastful, arrogant, revilers, disobedient to parents, ungrateful, unholy, unloving, and irreconcilable, malicious gossips, without self-control, brutal, haters of good, treacherous, reckless, conceited, lovers of pleasure rather than lovers of God, holding to a form of godliness, although they have denied its power. Avoid such men as these.
I mean, clearly this passage lists out a host of qualities that these men should have, or men should have, or men who profess to be godly or Yah-fearing should have, right? They should possess these qualities, right? Or the qualities that they're not supposed to possess, right? If these men have these qualities of, in other words, they should not have these qualities. That's the opposite. I'm sorry. They should not be lovers of self. They should not be lovers of money. They should not be boastful. They should not be arrogant. So that means a man can be in his masculine and not necessarily be these things, right? And so that's the whole point. So Matthew 23:37, read that one for us, Aki, please.
Jerusalem, Jerusalem, who kills the prophets and stones those who are sent to her. How often I wanted to gather your children together, the way a hen gathers her chicks under her wings, and you were unwilling.
And this is the point. This is, and if you go back to the inception of Israel being taken into captivity, taken into exile, what was our state? Our state was that we were a people who were not willing. We were not willing to submit, right? And so Yeshua is saying, I sent the prophets and you killed them, right? And yet it's been for a long time I've been desiring to gather you under your wings, but under my wings, but you're not willing, and that is the problem. Like, he has these standards, but yet in our world, in our society, in our culture, many of us are not willing. We're not willing. We're not willing to do it his way. All right, so let's look at these last video breaks here. All right. This one takes the cake. All right, brace yourself.
Okay, you guys are all just like really misogynistic.
How do you define this?
All right, so she's saying that all of these guys, she says all of you guys are really misogynistic because it was kind of like low with the music. So now he's going to challenge what she just said, right? And he's going to question her. So he's asking her, how do you define misogyny? All right.
Misogyny. What? How do you? I'm just asking how you define misogyny.
Can I go?
Are you okay? Like, do you want you want to go as in leave? If you, yeah, no, look, if you want to leave, you can leave. I was hoping we could continue having a conversation, but okay. I mean,
Okay, you guys.
Wow. Let's unpack that one. Okay. What do you guys get from that one? What do you get from that one? Let's pull the screen up. What do you guys get from that one? Describe what you see here. Okay. She says you guys are all misogynistic, and now he's questioning her. I'm assuming this is the host. He's questioning her as to what does she mean by misogyny? What does misogyny mean? And you see her response. Talk to me. What you got here?
She follows the crowd, and she just repeats what the mainstream says, and even though she doesn't even know what it means.
Yeah, right.
That's hilarious.
Never really defined the term. She's just throwing the term out there, right? And it just goes to show when you think of these movements, right? You know, the feminist movements, right? And the like. A lot of times there are people that are following, and they don't even know the definition of the terms that's being used. They're just regurgitating and repeating what it is that they're hearing being spewed in the movement, right? Mrs. Lackley said that whole episode was a train wreck indeed. JTOA says children usually cry when they have no other response. Indeed, when they're caught red-handed, right? Isn't that what they do, right? And it's crazy. Call for Wisdom says she could have simply said I don't know, but had to make herself look like she is being attacked. Yeah, she's holding her chest, but this misogynistic man, he's attacking me with these questions. Like, why is he attacking me with these questions? Right? Like she was literally being attacked, right? Like such game, right? Game. Like it's so manipulative. Train Strange Sign says, I blame TikTok repeating things they don't understand. Indeed. Empty movements. Exactly. So anything that you say to these women, the response is, or obviously we got men too that's championing this as well. They just throwing out and lashing with the word, shooting at with the word misogyny, and that's it, right? That's the comeback, right? That's the response. That's what's going on there. All right, so let's look at this last one, right? Wow, it's crazy. That one took the cake.
If it came up and slapped them in the face. How men are told to be more vulnerable, to be more emotionally expressive, to be more caring. And taking that to extreme, there's a subgroup of the current discourse that also calls traditional male qualities of like stoicism and that kind of emotional resilience to be toxic, that it's bad for men. There might be some degree of truth to it. It's like I know men who are so removed from their own emotions that they wouldn't know if they were feeling anything if it came up and slapped them in the face, that they've practiced repressing their emotions for so long that they've completely on some level lost access to that dimension of their self, which is kind of sad. I can see that. But if there's an alternative between that man and the man who's spilling his purse all over the place, I think it's probably best, at least in terms of his success in the sexual marketplace, for him to be the former than the latter. Men are told to be more vulnerable, to be more emotional.
All right, what do you guys think of that one? That men are told to be more vulnerable and emotional, right? And if they sort of remove themselves from their emotions, like that's a bad thing in the society today. What do you guys think of that? What do you guys think on this? What's your feedback? Let's talk about it. Right. I recall, being a veteran, being in the military and the training that I underwent, right? I was in combat arms, right? We trained for war, right? On a regular basis. And a lot of our training consisted of us really removing ourselves from our emotions, like not 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 emotionally thinking about it, but just going into action. Like that's what we're trained to do. And so, you know, how do you fight, especially on a close proximity, hand-to-hand combat level, if you don't want to see blood, if you're squeamish, if you feel like, it's going to be an unpleasant situation more than you need to save your behind, and you need to save your buddies behind as well. Like how do you engage? How do you proceed and move forward? Like how do you engage in the fight if you're so hung up with your emotions, right? And so is there a call, or is there a call for men, or is it necessary for men to a certain degree to not be controlled by their emotions? I think that's the question that I think I would have based on this video. And Call for Wisdom says, yes, I agree. If the captain starts to panic during a storm, how is he helpful to the crew? Exactly. I mean, picture Yeshua, right? On a boat. The storm is raging. The boat is rocking. Water's getting inside the boat. His crew is panicking. But what was he doing? What was he doing on the boat? He's in the boat, in the hole, sleeping, right? Talk about calmness, talking about command, talk about leadership, talk about stoic, right? That is the epitome of it. Your dude is in there sleeping. What do you guys say? Talk to me. Ms. Lackney says, sounds like their woman is trying to make the man a girlfriend of sorts. If they would open their eyes to the truth and there is a second wife, they would not push for their man to become softer. Exactly.
True.
So true. But that's what prescriptive monogamy does, right? It promotes a sense of masculinity. It promotes a sense of a woman wanting or attempting to create a softer side of her man, a softer side in her man, right? All women want someone to like to talk to. 2 seconds solves the problem. Exactly. You have no sisters. There's a lot of women, they get overwhelmed in a marriage. They have no companionship, right? Especially if they live somewhere around people that they don't know. Like, it's suffocating for a woman, especially if she got multiple little children in the house, no one to talk with, this culture is doing so much of a disservice to women, right? But not so with Leah, right? Leah had her sister's concubine, and her own concubine. So she had other women, right, that she can talk with in Jacob's house.
I had to be honest, I had to learn things about myself that I guess because of society, there were things about me that I thought were wrong, but it was actually natural when it came to being a man. In regards to things like stoicism and things like that. Like one time, my son, he was running down a sidewalk and he fell, and I had a thought in my head, like, I wanted to pick him up, but then I'm like, I didn't panic or nothing, but it's like I wanted to pick him up, but then I'm like, nah, I'm gonna let him get himself up.
Yeah.
And
yeah, that's so important.
And I learned, like, sometimes I actually thought there might have been something wrong with me because I wasn't feeling, that emotion that I thought that I should have felt when I was actually more feminine in that situation.
Yeah. You don't want
thought there
your
was
baby.
something wrong with me.
You don't want your baby to suffer and all of that. But think about that. Like, if you're gonna teach your boy to be a man, right? he has to learn how to figure things out, right? He has to endure pain, because he's gonna suffer a lot of pain in this life, right? And you can't coddle him all the time, right? I purpose myself to do that so much with my little one. You know, whenever he falls, I'm like, yeah, you all right. Don't worry about it. You got it. Yeah, it's gonna wear off. Don't worry about it. You got it. You know, and I try to say it in the most calmest voice that I could say it, because like his mom, oh, what happened to you? Oh, my baby. You know, like no. That's not how we do this here. Yeah. They gotta endure some pain, man. They got to, man. It's a part of being a man. You take your licks and you keep moving.
Yeah.
Right. So you got hurt a little bit. Okay, that's good. That means you're alive. Let's keep moving. Let's go on. Let's move on to the next thing. Right. That means you're still here. Right. All right. So how can we be peacemakers without being pushovers? Is it possible to be a peacemaker by not be a pushover at the same time? Is that possible? Is it? Is it possible to be a peacemaker and not be a pushover?
Sometimes you have to show your masculinity in order to be a peacemaker.
In order to be a peacemaker, right? And I mean, because there's a difference between being a peacemaker and a peace lover, right? The peace lover loves peace more than anything, and the peacemaker will make peace more than anything. So which one is what a man should be? Should he be more of a peace lover or more of a peace maker?
Peacemaker.
Peacemaker, right? Because if he doesn't make the peace, there won't be no peace to love. It's not going to exist, right? So we live in a society that has been conquered, settled, cleared, civilized, and infrastructure has been built, right? Laws and rules and order has been put in place. So there's peace, right? We can literally walk down the street because there's been peace made. Not because some men loved peace, because if they loved peace, then they would have never conquered. They would have never established, right? They would have never endured the rough, right? And that's the thing about men. Like we should be peacemakers before we be peace lovers. Right. All right. So we got another comment coming in here. Peacemaker, because war is exactly, and without war, many don't understand you're not gonna have peace. You know, most of us as men, we've been there. We've experienced somebody bigger than us trying to bully us, or somebody picking on us, and so we have to stand up for ourselves. Right? You got to stand up for yourself, even if it's not even physically fighting. It just could be someone picking on you because they're joking, they're ranking on you, right? They're cracking jokes on you. Yeah, you're gonna be an easy target as long as you start crying, right? You know, then they're gonna just become more motivated. But when you crack back and you snap back, yeah, it might not be funny what you say, but at least you're standing up for yourself, right? And that's a huge part of masculinity, right? Is to protect your ground, right? Protect your own, right? All right. So what about this one? Are there compromises that dishonor Yah ever? Is there ever a compromise that dishonors the Most High?
Yep.
Can you name one?
Being a peace lover.
Being a peace lover. We said it earlier. Exactly. That probably be a big one, right? All right. So how do we lead women without fear of their backlash then? Because so far what we talked about tonight here, it seems like it's inevitable that we're going to get some backlash. So how do we lead women without fear of their backlash?
I mean, we just have to, I believe we just have to have confidence in the road that the Most High placed us in.
I agree. Right. And Call for Wisdom says you can't lead with fear. Not at all. Doesn't mean that you don't feel frightened, right? But it's what you do in spite of the fright that you feel. Right? You know, and that's the thing. Like the fright is there for your adrenaline, right? The fright is there, can be your friend. I heard Mike Tyson, said one time in an interview in his earlier years when he was like just demolishing, fighters for the fun of it. And they asked him, it's like, when you go into the ring, you just seem like you're just so vicious. Like this light turns on and you just charge and you just go and you just annihilate your do you ever feel afraid? He said, of course. He said, of course. He said, I always feel afraid. He said, I don't fight if I don't feel afraid. He said, feeling afraid is my friend. He says, yeah. So he learned through his training to channel the fear and use it to his advantage, as opposed to allowing it to cripple him, right? Of doing what he got to do and getting the job done, right? Right. So, I mean, if you're going to feel it, you might as well use it, right, to your advantage, right? So it makes sense. All right. So, what role does love, patience, and long suffering play in male leadership, right? Romans 12:18 says, if possible, as far as it depends on you, live at peace with everyone. So that means even with your woman, right? As far as lie with you, so you stand as long as you can. Haven't done all the stand therefore, right? Stand as far as you can, but then there might be a point where you can't. They're not going to allow you to, right? And you just got to do what you got to do. You got to cut your losses, right? Just like this thing about war should be the last resort, but we don't live in a peaceful world, and somebody may push you to that point where you have no choice but to just got to do what you got to do, right? You got to handle your business. And Ari Height says, peacemaker, am learning much about parenting, especially the boys, listening to qualities of righteous leadership. Thank you. Praise Yah, the Most High. All right. Brother Sheldon says, as a dad of all boys, as a peacemaker, sometimes you let them hash it out instead of a peace lover who always intervene in their disagreements. Exactly. Taking up for the little one. No, that little one got to learn. He got an advantage. He got some older siblings so that he can learn. Because when he get outside, there's going to be some older cats out there that's bigger than him, older than him, stronger than him. So he's got to learn to be able to deal, function, protect himself at all costs. Indeed, for sure. All right. So are you ready to be misunderstood for standing in the truth? Are you? Right? And we missed the scriptures here. The 1 Peter 3:7 says, husbands living with wives in an understanding way. So that's definitely commanded. So even though we lead and they're called to submit to our leadership, we still have to be understanding towards them, right? Ecclesiastes 3:8 says that there's a time for war and there's a time for peace. So we have to know when whatever force, what kind of force is necessary, right? Are you ready to be misunderstood for standing in truth? That's the question to the brothers here. That's the challenge, right? Galatians 1:10 is, am I now trying to win the approval of human beings or of Yah? Joshua 1:9 said, commands, be strong and courageous, for Yah is with you. So what are we saying here tonight? We said a lot. We had a lot of banners. We did a lot of questions. We had a lot of things to consider. What are we saying here tonight with this title? Is it misogynist to call out misandry today? If you call it out today, are you being misogynistic? What are we saying here?
No, we're not. And just because we might say things that, like, the women could, there's some that a lot of women could be better about, doesn't mean that we hate them. It's the opposite.
Right. It's leadership. right? It's leadership. It's what comes with the job. Like a leader is called to direct. A leader is called to correct, to guide, to be in control of the situation. That's what a leader is called to do, because the leader is responsible, right? The leader is the one that's in authority. The leader is the one that should be taking the hit when everything goes wrong, right? And so he bears those responsibilities. And so is it necessary that he is being misogynistic because he's calling her out on her misandry, that she's despising male headship, male authority, male, as we've seen in a number of these videos tonight? You had both men and women, right? Or a man and a number of women despising men being in the position of leadership and authority and having a sense of domination over them, right? They despise that, right? Correcting them. What do you mean? I'm not a little kid, right? There's a lot of women. I'm not a child, right? Call for Wisdom says, speak the truth in love and lead with love. Amen to that. I like that. Brother Sheldon says, Brother Mike preaching to me. I am guilty of taking up for the youngest when big brother takes him. It's tempting, man. You don't want to see, you want to protect your little one, man. This also shows that you have a heart. You love your child. You're supposed to have affection for your son. You're supposed to not want somebody to take advantage of him, right? But you also don't want to rob him of the opportunity to learn, to grow. You don't want to stunt his growth, right? You don't want to do a disservice, right? Because I've heard the horror story. I've seen the stories in my own family, right? The youngest get treated a certain way and they never mature and they get older. And they're the ones that get in trouble when mommy and daddy gets older and they're no longer strong like how they used to be with the older ones, right? And so they get away with stuff, right? And it follows them, right? I have friends, I have family members, right, that that are hooked on drugs, can't stay out of jail, right? Why? Because they never developed manhood. They never developed truly being peacemakers and fending for themselves and standing for what's right and being righteous and being accountable and being responsible. Why? Because they always depended on someone to bail them out. They always depended upon, us and manipulated to get someone to take the heavy load for them, right? So you don't want to take the heavy load for your son, right? Let him feel the fact that thing is heavy, right? He needs to feel that. That's to get his weight up. When you go to the gym, you go to work out, you want to get stronger, you got to put some stronger weight on there, right? You keep going up, the more and so he got to get some stronger weight. He got to experience the stronger weight, right, of masculinity. He's got to feel it in his hands, right? He got to feel it in his chest. He got to feel it in his body, right? So he's got to feel it. All right. So what are we saying here to you guys in the audience, or what shall I say to those that are in the playback? What say you about this topic? Is it necessarily misogynistic? Or is it not misogynistic to call out misandry, calling out women on their ill treatment towards men, their hatred towards men? Are we wrong for correcting that? Are we wrong for speaking to that? Right? I want to know what you say right in the comment section. You watching this video from the playback, love to get your feedback. Love to get your feedback, right? Yeah, love to get your feedback here tonight. Definitely had a good time with this. Aki, is anything else you want to say?
No, that's all.
Man, belly full. All right. So announcements. All right. So this coming Shabbat. Well, tomorrow, according to the calendar that I follow, it's a Zadok Way calendar, and so tomorrow I'll be observing Pesach, Passover, and so I'm looking forward to that. So some of you may be observing tomorrow. I know some will be observing later on in the week, and next week. It all depends on the calendar that you're following. And as Brother Noah and I was talking about earlier, how we're so fractured, right? you know, and we got to remember and remind ourselves that he who scattered us is he who will gather us. So it was Yah himself who scattered us. And when he scattered us, our knowledge and information of even his timing, or even our ability to be able to keep all of the, because we can't even keep all of the commandments because we've been fractured, we're removed from the land, right? Even thinking of prior to going into the land, right? You know, we wandered in the wilderness for 40 years, having this body of commandments, 613 principles, but not being able to fulfill all of them because we weren't in the land. So what was most important, even in the wilderness period, and what's more important even here now in exile, is that we have a heart to want to keep his commandments, right? If we have a heart to want to serve him, right? Even to the best of our abilities, and not being able to do what we would normally do being in the land, right? And so that's the challenge to us, right? To that we have a desire for him and his commandments, as the psalmist taught so eloquently throughout the 119 Psalms, right? So it has to be a desire within us. So this coming Shabbat, we're going to be resuming what we started the last time on the topic. This will be a part 2 of digging into the conscience, the inner you, digging into the conscience, the inner you. So if you really want to go deep, this is definitely a deep topic. Where last time we made the correlation between the temple, the tabernacle in the wilderness, right? And you being the tabernacle, you being the temple, and the relationship with that and the conscience in you. So if you didn't see the previous video, just go back 2 weeks ago in the live stream tab on the channel on the home screen. And definitely catch that first edition on digging in the conscience, the inner you. So we're going to go deeper than what we did the last time, because this topic runs very deep, right? And it demands a lot of things from us when we understand how we are the temple and how we reflect the temple, the tabernacle that was first set up and commanded to be erected in the wilderness. So, yeah, that's what we're going to be doing this coming Shabbat, 9 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. So I'll be looking for you guys who can make it, and definitely share the link. Let others know about it, right? And so Mrs. Lackney says, not misogynistic at all. No, it isn't to call out on the misandry, not at all. Call for Wisdom says, have a blessed night. Rest, everyone, brothers. I am so glad Yah has established you all to lead. Thank you, sis. Thank you for that. And we need the encouragement. We need the encouragement because there's so much fighting against us doing what we're supposed to do, right? And Irie Heights says, blessed Passover and unleavened bread, seasoned family. Yes, thank you so much, my sister. Blessings to you and you the same. All righty. So, Brother Aki, would you be so kind to close us out? Oh, so let me just also contacts Brother Noah. This Tree of the Field, this is his call letter, his call handle to his channel. So go on over, like, share, subscribe, right? And definitely leave some comments, right, in the comment sections. And then we have our Sister D, Sister Deborah, Call for Wisdom. This is the call handle of her particular channel. Go on over, like, comment, subscribe, share, and after you share again. Don't keep that love to yourself. And definitely our dear brother Jeremy, the Word of the Sword Men. This is his call handle of his channel. Going over to his YouTube channel and like, comment, subscribe, and share again. So with that said, we're going to ask Brother Aki to close us out in a word of prayer and shalom to you, Brother Sheldon. Yes, brother.
Abba Yahweh, thank you. We thank you for this fellowship tonight, that we can build off each other and learn and be encouraged to continue to do what we should as men, so that the women will also do their job, that we love them, and that we love our wives, our sisters, our mothers, and that we don't have that ingrained that ingrained, you know, the definition that we read, that we don't have that example of misogyny, that is not true, and that we just continue to just do what we do as men, and move in our calling as men, and as fathers, as brothers, and uncles and cousins, that we just thank you for the role that our natural roles that you have given us. And I pray that we'll have a blessed night, and that I pray as humbly that you bless us and keep us and our family and friends, keep our minds, keep us spiritually, our health, and that you just protect us tonight, and keep your angels watch over us. And we just thank you and praise your name, Abba Yah. In the name of your son, Yahusha, amen.
Amen. Amen. Thank you, brother. Thank you for that powerful prayer. Yes, thank you, Mrs. Lackney. Thank you, Brother Sheldon. Yes, Irie Heights, call for wisdom. We also had in here with us tonight, Strange Times. We also want to thank you, JTOA, who passed through. Definitely Aki Manilow, Sword of the Lord. We also had, aside from JTO and Sword of the Lord, we also came in Strange Times this evening. Yeah, so we had a handful, we had a host of people that came in the comment section. Definitely was in the background. House of Lamar came in and chimed in, and he shared and gave some input and added to the discussion tonight. So, and don't forget, definitely the servants of Yah, Pastor Rufus, he came and he blessed us with some wisdom here tonight. I'm grateful that the brother, and Brother Tony Smith earlier on, definitely dropping it for us tonight. So yeah, we definitely had a good show tonight, and we impact, and I think we hit all cylinders, and I'm blessed. I'm feeling good as we depart from one another tonight, and also on JTOA's blessings to all of you. So with that said, for King and Kingdom, we bid you shalom, and you all
Shalom.
Pesach, and until the next time, peace.